This is podcast number 1 of the 365 commitment. And my name is Guy Reams, and I have with me my host, Ben Wagner. Good evening, Ben.
Hey, good evening, Guy. Good to see you.
You should,
I gotta say, we're pretty handsome guys on camera.
yeah, we are.
What
We are pretty handsome. Thank you for saying that. You should listen to this podcast if you have been looking for a formula, a system, a method to follow to improve your life. I believe that we have found that formula.
Yep.
And you have found a truth when you find something that is so simple, it's almost beautiful, or it is beautiful. 265 days ago, 265 days ago today, I made a commitment to do one thing, one simple thing, every day for 365 days in a row. And today is day 265 of that commitment. So I have 100 days left. And Ben, you were there the first day I started. I called you the morning that I started my
Yeah,
commitment, right?
yeah. I remember you called me and I joined you and I made it about, well, I'd say roughly 90 days.
You
And
made it 90 days, which was good. Hey, that's good. You almost got to 100. That's almost a habit.
well, I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's had a profound impact. Even that 90 days, and then I had a lot of drama in our personal lives with my family, but nonetheless, the 365 commitment, which I know we're going to dive into deeper, has had a tremendous impact on my life. Things have gotten way better this year, and I'm back in the saddle. I want to get 100 days before the end of the year.
What day are you on now?
I think I'm on day 8.
Day 8. All right. Well, that's
Yeah.
good. That's awesome. So, today was a rough day. I mean, I did my 365 commitment in the morning like I always do. That's habit. That is dead habit. And I want to talk about habit here in a minute, but I have a lot of other things I've added along the way, which we'll get into it on this call, on this podcast. But the problem is today was a bad day. I mean, I had a lot going on. I mean, just had a massive amount of stuff happening at work and in my personal life, and some things I committed to that I have to have done tomorrow, and then on top of that, I had to add this podcast, and I had to add a bunch of other things that I'm doing in preparation for the end of my commitment, and that added a lot of stress and burden on me. But you know what? My commitment is so strong and it's so powerful now in my life that I had 30 minutes before this call, so I
Mm.
took care of those 215 push-ups.
Nice,
So I
nice.
had to get those suckers done, right? And,
Yep.
and that's the power of finding out that you can actually make a commitment and keep it. There's a lot of power to that. And now that I've made a commitment, it's not easy doing the push-ups every day. In fact, I don't want to do those push-ups.
Yeah.
I am looking for a reason not to do the push-ups. And the old guy would have not done the push-ups. I would have just said, I'll do them tomorrow, or I'll start again on Sunday, or blah, blah, blah. Whatever excuse I come up with, but
Yep.
I did the push-ups
So,
anyway.
so that's the difference or a significant difference you've noticed. The old guy, the guy for 40, 50 years in the past, would have dropped the ball, flaked out, not done the push-ups.
Yes,
But
exactly.
but but now that you've ingrained this, you were able, despite this bad day, despite all this stress and concern, you still did it. Now, did you feel better after you did
Oh yeah.
checked it off your list?
In fact, right around the 100th push-up, I started feeling pretty darn good about it. I'm like, this isn't that hard, actually.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I actually have developed a little bit of. I've got some definition in my chest now, and I've got some pretty solid triceps.
yeah. I
I
bet.
mean, when you do 200 plus, when you're doing as many pushes as I'm doing every day, you start building some muscle, right?
Yeah.
And I got to 100 push-ups, and it's not that hard. I mean, it's really not that hard. And I'm sitting there thinking, what was I worried about? What was my mind? What was the freaking that I don't know what that thing is in your mind, wherever it is. It's like the amygdala, whatever it is called, down based in the middle of your brain
Amygdala,
somewhere.
your
The
amygdala.
amygdala, whatever that name is. That thing inside your head is sitting there going, "No, you don't want to do stuff like that. You don't want to. You don't want to do push-ups. That's hard.
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
you, you don't want to do that."
Well, I've enjoyed reading your blog, and you've been putting out this daily blog, and it's just a goldmine to go back and read some of the, because you've documented your struggles and you've documented your triumphs. And one thing that stuck with me was one day you said, you got to kind of trick yourself into doing it. Like, I'll just walk a little ways, or instead of run, and then that gets you out the door. And that's what I did this morning. I was up way too late last night. I got all wrapped up watching those hearings,
Yep.
and then thought, well, I'll just have a small glass of whiskey. Next thing you know, I got like 5 hours sleep, but anyway, I still woke up at 5, and I was like, oh man, I'm tired. And I went, no, embrace the suck, get out there, and just walk. And that's what I did. I fooled myself. I just went out, walked, and as soon as I hit the street, walked about 100 yards and just started running, and
Yep.
it felt pretty good. Then I came in and grabbed the chin-up bar, and those sucked too. But I thought of you and David Goggins, and want to callous the mind like he talks about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Mind calluses, and you know what? I have built those, but we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Anybody who might be, if by some miracle people actually listen to what we have to say, I think that anybody who's listening is probably really curious at this point as to what the heck we're talking about.
Yep.
So I'll just briefly describe the journey. So 265 days ago, there was several things that kind of were bouncing around in my head. And I don't want to get into all of those things, but I can tell you one thing. I've always been looking for systems or things to improve my life. And I've spent my whole life trying to create some sort of perfect system that I can live by in order to just force myself into following a regimen that I would consider perfect or
Right.
better than what I am now.
Yep.
And I've always tried that. And you know what? I have spent months and months and months developing the perfect system, the perfect method. And I'm telling you, it's probably a work of art. I could probably write a book on some of the systems that I've created for perfecting your life. And then I go to implement the system, and about a week goes by, and I completely fail, and it's done. And all that work is gone, right?
Yeah.
And that's been stewing around in my head. And a couple of years ago, I decided, you know what? Maybe I'm just not destined to have a system.
Well, yeah, that's the root problem right there. You just laid it out. I think people that listening can relate to that, because a lot of people try things, and why do we stop? Why do we fail? What is at the root of that? And I think this, 365 commitment, which you're outlining and going to go into, gets to the bottom of the root to solve it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the root cause is I've always been trying to create this perfect system. And I've heard people tell me before, Guy, you have to start small.
Right.
You have to start with increments. But I've always been like, I can do it, right? Just suck it up and do it, Guy, right? And and so I've always thought that I'm going to overcome. And so
Right.
then I don't know if you've done this, but like I want to lose weight or I want to eat better, I want to exercise, or I want to run, or I want to blah blah, I want to quit this or I want to quit that, whatever it is. I've always thought, well, I'm going to start that on Sunday. Sunday's a good day to start that.
Tomorrow.
So I'm going to continue to do the bad behavior up until Sunday, and then I'm going to change. And I'm trying to build up the moment. And sometimes I wake up on a Sunday morning and I've got momentum, and I start. And then I go to Monday, and then I go to Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday I fail.
Yeah.
Sometimes though, when I wake up on Sunday, I just blow it off anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think part of the problem here is you're making these decisions with your conscious mind, and most of our mind, 95% of it, is is opaque to us. We are not transparent to ourselves. There's motivations and there's subpersonalities and there's parts of our minds that we have no clue about. I mean, just think about our dream life, how powerful the subconscious is. So this little conscious mind is making these decisions, but this much bigger part of ourselves, it might not be going along for the ride. So how do you get that whole being to go along for the ride? And I think ingraining a habit is part of that solution that you identified. Is it on track?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I was reading, and I'm going to forget the author's name, and I feel bad, but I'm actually going to try to contact this author and maybe put him on one of our podcasts in the future. I'm starting to create a guest list.
Wendell Berry?
Well, I got Wendell Berry. I'm trying to get. I've got that interview with his archivist to see what she says. That'll be fun, right? That'll be interesting. Yeah. I need to actually read his book again before I have that call.
Yeah.
So now I'm like all under stress. I'm like, damn it, why did I make that for Tuesday? Now I got to read all day Monday. But what I want to do is one of the guest lists is this guy that wrote this book, and it's called The One, right? And it's a very simple book. I don't have it here with me, but it's a very simple book. And it's a book about, and the basic concept of the book was pick the one thing, right? What is the one thing that you're going to do today? And I had read like a chapter of that book. I didn't get very far.
Yeah.
I bought it in an airport, and I was just, one of the, how I don't know if
you sure you weren't watching City Slickers?
No, but that quote, he's got that quote in the book. That's like the start of one of the chapters. Is
the one thing.
Yeah,
I remember Jack
that's
Palance.
in the book. No, that's how it starts. That's where he got the idea from. Is from
cool.
City Slickers. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that reference is exactly dead on. But it's one of those things where I'm in an airport. When you're in an airport by yourself and you're traveling, there's kind of this, I don't know if it's you miss your family. Maybe it is. Maybe it's miss your family. Maybe what this melancholy feeling you have is missing your family. And I've never really known that that's what it is missing your family. But so maybe I am experiencing this emotion of missing my family. But there's this feeling of melancholy, I think is the right term. And I walk into the little newsstand store looking for salvation. Looking for motivation, salvation, inspiration, something, and I can find inspiration in a bag of M&M peanuts, chocolate covered. Sometimes I'll find salvation in some beverage or some snack or some magazine that's got an interesting title. Or most of the times I see a book that just looks interesting, and so I'll buy it, and I'll have the airplane ride to read it. And this is one of those books. And so this airplane ride happened a few days before I started the 365 commitment. So I was reading, and I got to like one of these chapters. In one of the chapters, he talks about habit. And the concept he said, which stuck with me, and it opened my eyes to something I'd always known this. This wasn't like revelation, but it was a reminder.
Yeah.
And that is that discipline is really a complete myth. I look at these people like runners. I've always looked at runners with envy. I'm like, oh, that's a runner. I hate that runner. Because the runner is disciplined. Like you can tell somebody who's been running a while. Like they've got the build, the physique. They're wearing the cool runner clothes. They got
those chiseled calf muscles.
They've got the shoes that are designed for running.
How do they keep running long enough to look like that?
Yeah, and their stride is just amazing. Like their body's made for crawling across the ground at high speeds, and it's like they're a boat that's got on plane. You know how your boat gets on plane and then it rides above the water, and it's like and it's so easy to when you're on plane. That's like a good runner. They get up into that sprint that motion, and they're on plane now, and now it's so effortless, and they look so cool and sexy, and you're like, oh, I want to be disciplined like that. Well, so I've always wanted to be disciplined. Right. And I've never been able to be disciplined because I wake up and I create these perfect systems and I can never finish them and I can never be disciplined. And it just sucks. I mean, I've lived my whole life rotten with perfection because I can't get disciplined. Right?
Right.
So in his book, he said, and I need to get the author. We'll talk about it one of these days. But
Okay.
uh,
But it's the genesis for 365.
yeah,
The
and
core.
in the book he
Okay.
says something to the effect of discipline is a myth. What discipline really is just a person that has built a bunch of good habits.
Right.
That's all it is.
It's almost a lazy person. My dad Butch used to say he'd keep the house clean and clean everything up. He says, "Cause I'm lazy." You know, if I just put things away right away, it saves me a bunch of hassle and work later on.
Exactly.
You know, so in a way, it's less effort in the long run if you can master if it becomes a habit and it doesn't take willpower, right?
Yeah, I have this habit when I get a tool out. Like I was working on one of my kids' robotics things,
Yeah,
and I went and got a tool, and I was working on it. And I've got this habit of walking in the garage and just tossing the tool onto
on the bench. Yeah,
the workbench.
yeah.
But the workbench is now full of crap because I just I've got this habit. It would have been no harder for me to take that tool and hang it back on the pegboard where it belongs. But I'm in this habit of just chucking the screwdriver onto the. But
Because
Butch
you're
is
saving
right.
time. Because you're saving effort.
Butch is
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That 1 second, maybe a millisecond extra to hang the screwdriver onto the pegboard would save me an agonizing weekend of cleaning the damn garage again.
Yeah. Well, you're borrowing effort from your future self. You know, because that
Exactly. Yeah.
future self's gonna have to face that, right? That damn tool. That same thing happens to me.
Exactly. And you and I are wired the same way. I bet you we both go through that same motion. And we both probably are thinking in our mind, one of these weekends, I'm going to get up the energy and I'm going to clean that damn garage again. Or clean the damn whatever, fill in the blank, whatever again. But so he was saying that the other myth is that it doesn't take a lot of willpower to have a habit. People have always looked at me and said, Guy, you have a tremendous amount of willpower. I can't believe how much willpower you have. And I'm like, I don't really have that much willpower. In fact, I think I'm kind of lame.
Yeah.
I'm lazy. I'm generally don't like to do stuff. I'll pick the donuts over the good food. I'm just not. I'm not
Sure.
wired well. You know.
Yeah,
It's,
habits don't take effort. I think that's one of the distinctions of a habit. Bad habits we develop, and they stick with us, and it didn't take effort. You know, or it doesn't take effort to remain in a bad habit.
yeah.
Probably the same is true for a good habit.
Yeah, you're right. And how much time? And the other thing was interesting is how much time do you think it takes to actually build a real habit? I'd
Hmm.
always thought 18 days. Somebody told me somewhere 18 days.
Right.
That is complete bullshit. It is not 18 days.
I'd always heard 30 days.
It's 90.
Yeah.
So you quit. Last time you did the 365, you quit the day of you were about ready to make it a habit. You quit the day it was going to become a habit. But no, seriously, I think it takes
That's my
90 days to
superpower.
build a real habit, and it takes 3 days to blow it.
90 days to create a real habit, 3 days to blow it.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 days to destroy it, 90 days to build it. That's my personal experience. It may be different for different people, but that's how much willpower. I think it takes a lot of willpower to build the habit. But
Hmm.
after you built the habit, no more willpower required. Like my my push-ups today and my run today and the other things
Yeah.
I'm doing,
Yeah.
no willpower whatsoever. I wake up and I'm in the motion. I'm just doing. You know what? I don't. And maybe I don't want to do it. Maybe I'm like, I just don't want to do it. Oh God. Ugh. But I'm doing it anyway. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, and I know we're focusing on the physical stuff, and you've got a lot of other habits that I know you've accumulated or added or built on over the last 265 days. But I got to say about the physical habits, what a difference when,
Yeah.
and that's why I've done this run and I've added that. That's the first thing I do. I get up and I go run and I exercise, and I'll tell you, I have energy all throughout the day if I just run in the morning and do a simple, a couple lifts. It doesn't take much, and if I don't, I'm falling asleep in the afternoon and down in the coffee. And if I just simply do that run, and halfway through the run, you're already getting that, starting to feel good and the blood's pumping, and it makes a huge impact. So I know I got to keep this. That this is something that I want to ingrain.
It doesn't take that much.
Yeah.
Honestly, I started running 215 days ago. I started running every day,
Yeah.
and I'm just telling you, I didn't do that much. I basically ran to the freaking mailbox and back. Seriously, but I just did it. And the only reason I did it is because I learned that habits work. And so I decided, well, God, I would love to be one of those runners. Well, guess what? I now have my really cool running shoes. I now have the running outfit now. I now run at a stride that is competitive with some of the other runners out there now, which fat 280-pound loser dude rolling down to the mailbox
wasn't the case before.
And I don't know what I was wearing when I was doing it, but it was some old Lakers shirt. It was all natted up, and my shorts are lame, and my shoes I found in the closet. They were not made for running, and I'm like, blah, and but I did it, and the next day I did it. And the next day I did it. And the next day I did it. And 30, 40, 50 days into it, I'm like, I'm going to run to the gas station.
And what kept you on that was that goal of doing it 365 days in a row.
Yep.
Right? It wasn't like, oh, I want to run again. It's like, no, I have this future vision of doing this for 365 days. So I got to do it.
Yep.
Right?
Well, we got to talk. We don't have time on this podcast, but I think we got to talk about self-visioning, because self-visioning had a lot to do with this.
Yeah, that should definitely be a topic. That is
because what am I going to look like? What am I going to look like, think like, act like, be like? What am I going to be What am I going to be doing the day that 365 comes?
Yeah.
What am I going to be doing that day?
Yeah.
I've got a vision in my mind of what that's going to be, and self-visioning, I think, is a secret to this whole process, and I think we need to talk about that.
That's got to be a chapter, right? For sure.
Yeah, a chapter. Well, let's get into the. So anyway, the habit forming got me thinking.
Yep.
And I was teaching this small business development class, and for my church. And so then I go to teach the class that night, and I was unprepared because I was getting off a plane, driving from San Diego to where I got to go. And I get there, and all the people are waiting for me, which they're very nice for them to wait. And now I have to teach. Now, luckily, the curricula was self-paced, kind of self-paced.
Yeah.
But one of the curricula says, well, you need to show them this video. So I show them a video, and the video is of this little old woman from Africa or someplace. Yeah. And she describes this is a small business development class. This is not a religious class. She describes her process every day. And this is a woman from she lives in a thatch hut, like dirt floors. And she says, every morning when I get out of bed, I wake up and I go over and I grab my notebook. And I open up my notebook, and then I write down the things that I need to accomplish today that are the most important to me, my family, and my community. And I write them down. And then I pray to God and ask him, is there anybody that I missed? Right?
Right.
Is there anybody that I missed? And then I order them in the order of priority. And then I pray to God and I commit to God, I'm going to do the best I can to get that list done.
So part of it is identifying what's most important, and then aligning yourself with the highest good, the most powerful being you can imagine.
And I'm not saying that.
And for you as God.
I don't even think you have to believe in deity for this to work, honestly. Well, I think deity is what makes this work because I'm a religious guy. But having said that, I don't think that what we're talking about is necessarily.
Well, let's just say maybe one way to put it is there's an origin to consciousness.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah,
right?
let's take it. If you believe in God, great. This formula is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in God, well, you have a problem because you got to believe in human consciousness because you're thinking. You think, therefore you are.
Yeah.
So now you have to come up to grips with where did human consciousness come from, and you got to deal with the fact that maybe the very concept of God is what created human consciousness. The
Right.
thought that there's something greater than the being is what created the hierarchy, which is what created the need to be perfect, which is what created the deification of the human conscious mind, which created God. Whether you believe in God or whether you believe in the origins of human consciousness, you have to accept the fact that there is a higher power that we as
Yeah.
humans ascribe
Well,
to.
empirically, the 12-step programs have I would say proven that for many people, for most people, having that higher power is a crucial key to overcoming their shortcomings. Like having tuning into that higher consciousness, something greater than yourself. Because I think if we're just left to ourselves, maybe it just leads into kind of despair and nihilism. Because we know we suck, you know. All of us know that, even though we may have our moments of pride and arrogance, all of us realize that, we're pretty limited. So connecting to that higher consciousness, a higher being, a higher power, God, uh, I think we both agree is crucial element, an important element
Yeah,
in the
and we'll get more
365.
into the origins because during this process that I was before I listened to this video and before I read that chapter of that book, you and
Yeah,
I had been talking about Jordan Peterson, and
yeah,
I had been reading one of his textbook, his like 800-page diatribe on the history of human consciousness or whatever, the mind or whatever. I forget the title of the book, but I'm reading this book as well,
maps of
right?
meaning.
Maps of Meaning, that's it. It's like
Yeah,
and he's talking about consciousness and all this stuff and
yeah,
that's all boiling around in my head too. So I think there's a lot to do with that got to this point because I was sitting there thinking, you and I had talked about, is there a way to take the writings of a guy like Jordan Peterson and make a formula for living out of it? He
hmm,
created his top 12 things you got to do or whatever, but I'm
yeah,
talking about an actual formula that you could do, right? And so
yeah,
I was thinking about that. But anyway, get back to this saint angel of a woman who
right.
delivered this video, and I don't know her name. In
So
fact,
she
maybe
lives in a shack with a dirt floor, and you're in this business class,
yeah.
and
And I'm
she
thinking
says what she does every day is she writes down what's most important to
in her
her and
notebook.
thinks of all the people in her life, and did she miss anybody, and she prays, and then
Yeah,
what?
and she makes the commitment, and then she
Okay,
says, then I go out and I simply do my list.
right,
And she says, and during the day, I listen very carefully because I might be given direction to do something a little different because sometimes that higher power helps me accomplish two things at once or helps me knock a couple things out that are really important to me that on my way to do the task things were set up perfectly for me to accomplish what I was supposed to do. So
right,
she says that this higher power magnifies what I'm trying to accomplish, and then at the end of the day she reviews her list, prays about it, says sorry for what she didn't get done, and then asks for help to do better again tomorrow. And then she closes the book. The day
yeah,
is over. And she can end the day knowing that she tried her freaking best to have the best day possible.
yeah,
And that woman's video, which by the way was 2 minutes and 30 seconds, hit me harder than I've ever been hit by.
mm,
I've read a lot of inspiring things. And I've been inspired a lot of times in my life. But the
right.
simplicity, the beauty, you found a truth when it's so simple. It cuts right to the core of your soul, and you know it's right, right? You know what I mean? Have you felt that way before?
Oh,
It's like
absolutely.
it's like when Einstein hit E equals MC squared. He's like, that's it. right? Right.
Well,
I don't,
speaking of Einstein, my favorite Einstein quote of all time is, "Make things as simple as possible, but
yes,
no simpler." Right?
exactly.
So there's got to be the key ingredients, and if you leave one of those out, it won't work, and don't overcomplicate it. But one pragmatic thing that popped in my mind, thinking about your list and praying about it before you sleep. And by the way, I got this new thing. Instead of saying sorry, thank you for your patience with me.
Yeah,
I
that's a
don't
good
say
one.
sorry anymore. I say thanks for. But the thing is, right before you sleep, that's on your mind for your subconscious to chew over while you're sleeping.
Yep.
And that's got to be a pragmatic benefit, I would think.
Yeah, and me, the benefit was closing the past. Today is
Right,
done. I did the best I could. Today is
right.
over, and letting it go and being okay with that. Because I've never been okay with that before, right?
So you
So
haven't been able to just let things go. They just keep. So as a way to kind of say,
stirring,
I've done my
stewing,
best,
stirring, right?
and I can just shut it off because So it kind of created a demarcation that allowed you to let go of that worry and stress.
Yes, you're right. So that
Hmm.
that had a lot to do with it. So that was the three. So the next day after I watched that video, my son had bought me for Christmas because this was around January 8th or something. Well, let me look.
Yeah.
Here's my book. I got it right in front of me.
Yeah, I think we did.
Day
It was
one,
January.
day one, January
Yeah.
7th, 2018.
Yeah.
And my son had bought me this notebook for Christmas. So, and it was nice because it's spiral bound, so I can open it flat, you know?
Yeah.
So I wrote down the formula on the first page. So here I am reading from 265 days ago.
Okay.
Day one, January 7th, 2018, the formula. Number one, list tasks. Two, pray. Three, set priorities. Four, set goals, then act. Five, return and report. And that was it. And then I wrote down today's list. And on that day, I had 12 things on there. I didn't get them all done, but
Right.
I had 12 things on there. And every since that day, from day one till now, I've woke up every morning and I've written that list down and I've made a commitment to God to do the best I can to get that list done. And I can't say that every day has been a great prayer. I can't say that. I'm not going to say
Right.
that
Right.
because it's just not
Right.
true. But I've had a prayer. And,
Right.
I bet you there's some super religious people that listen to this podcast and go, well, you idiot. Praying every morning and every night has great benefits. That you
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
you haven't learned anything new. This is obvious. Any monk would tell you that daily
But
prayer is going to solve all your
but
problems. But right?
yeah, of course. But getting back to that, I don't know how you refer to it, but with that vision of your future self, or that vision of what you want to become. Like what really sort of got my attention with the 365 commitment was, all right, assuming that you follow those 5 steps every day, right? First, get up, write down what's most important to you, your tasks, or it can be, and it's different for everybody, goals, tasks. It could be that quadrant 2 stuff. It could just be mundane, whatever it is. You write it down, you pray about it, and then you do it that day, and then at the end of the night, you review, pray about it. Okay, what will that what impact will that have on your life after 365 days of doing that? What will be different? What will you look like?
Yeah,
How will you
yeah, yeah.
feel?
Yes.
Like that's what really grabbed my attention. It's like, hmm,
I
what's the
forgot
impact of
I
this habit?
forgot about that, but you're right. I was so motivated to change my life.
Right.
I wanted to be a different person. In fact, here was the question.
Hmm.
I wanted to know what I needed to be when I grew up. Here I am, knocking on a half century year old, right? I'm almost 50 now,
Yep.
and I'm sitting there thinking, I don't even know what I want to be when I grow up yet, and I'm 50. What the hell's that about, right? I mean, I don't know. You've probably felt that way your whole life too. It's like, I
Well,
still don't really know what it
I've
is.
go ahead.
I still really don't know. I know I can do great things. I know I have great talent, and I want to do something. I want to,
Yeah.
I'm at that age where I want to impact. All right. It's not even for ego. It really isn't for ego. I mean, there's a little bit of ego. There is
It's
pride
an
there. I
it's
mean,
an
I'll admit it.
ethic. It's an ethic to realize potential.
Yeah, that's what it
That
is.
yeah,
Yes. I want to do something, and I want to be, I guess I just want to be significant.
yeah.
And I guess there's a lot of people that feel this way. But and maybe you don't feel like this way when you're 20, but I did. I felt this way when I was 20, I felt this way when I was 30, and I felt this way when I was 40. I think I felt this way when I was 5. Um, right?
Well, that's kind of what life is. Here's this body of potential in front of you, and what are you going to do with it? You know,
Yeah,
how are
and
you going to
so
engage with the world to build, create yourself, build things in life, build relationships. It's all potential.
and
It,
it's poten- and I felt that if I kept this commitment
yeah,
for 365 days in a row, that at the end of the commitment, I would know, I would have confidence about what journey I was on, what path I was on. I would know the
right.
path was true and correct, and I would be fine with it. I would have confidence, ambition, and energy about the path.
Well, you would know because you've never gotten anywhere close to doing anything consistently for 360 days.
No. Yeah. Well,
Or,
no, I
you
brush my
talked about all
teeth
your
every
systems
morning.
in the
I'm
past.
freaking consistent about brushing my teeth every morning. That's about
Well,
it.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, as far as your self-improvement schemes, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I
Right.
brush my teeth. Can't say that I take a shower every day. Sometimes I mess that up.
Well,
But
you got to develop that rind.
yeah,
It's
I know you
it's
got.
part of your
But
immune
no, I
system.
mean, what other habit? I mean, seriously, I have a lot of bad habits. I accumulate those really easily.
Yeah.
But I've never had a good habit, and I've never strung two together. You're right. So, but that was my goal. I felt like if I could do this, if I could keep this up for 365 days in a row, I would have a dramatic and powerful change in my life. And that is what motivated me to write day 2,
Right.
and then write day 3, and then write day 4.
Yep.
So that was the process. So now I'm at day 100, and I wanted to do something special for day. Now I'm at day 265 with 100 days to go. So I wanted
Right.
to do something special, and so
Go ahead, close that door, Eli.
what I've decided to do is every day, no, for the next 100 days,
Right.
there's several things I've planned to do in this 100-day cycle. Number one, I want to do a podcast every 10 days, and I want to think about what the chapter. I'm going to write a book along the way. So every
Right.
10 days, I'm going to create a new chapter of the 365 commitment book,
Right.
and every podcast, I want to come up with the next chapter is. So I'm assuming that the chapter is going to be the introduction to what the commitment is. I'm assuming
Yeah.
that's the best thing to write about. What we've been
Yeah.
talking about.
Of course, tell the story of the genesis of the idea.
Yep.
And you've already got that's perfect. You got the components. You got that book at the airport. You got the little film of the old lady with her that you're stealing her idea.
Yeah, I'm absolutely stealing her idea.
And then any other influence that we're leaving out? And then just your frustration of not being able to keep commitments and create systems that sustain, that are sustainable. So you had that frustration that you went to overcome. So that combination of those things. Anything else that kind of inspired you?
No, that's a bait.
Oh, and you wanted to be a runner and look good naked.
No, that came 50 days later.
Okay.
We'll talk about that on the next one, because 50 days later I decided I kept every morning I'd think about what I was going to put on my list, and every morning I kept thinking I need to get my act together and eat better, or I need to get my act together and exercise, or I need and I'm just
Right.
all just bloated and overweight and feeling miserable and
Okay.
and I just kept thinking about that every morning. Every morning I wake up and I think the same thing, and I write it on my list, and at the end of the day I'm putting a big nothing next to it.
Yeah.
right? And then after 50 days of doing that, it had an impact,
So
right?
these as you moved into the habit, things that were nagging on you, kind of knocking on the door, light bulb went off and went, wait a minute, I can incorporate this into
Yeah,
my
that's what
routine.
hit me. After
Yeah.
50 days of keeping the 365, I'm like, I've got a habit now.
What am I going
I
to do with
just
it?
wake up and I do it. I don't even think, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, could I do something incrementally to improve my physical health? So I added that. So we'll get into that next. But anyway,
Sure.
back to the 100 days. So I'm going to write a chapter every 10 days. So now this moment is me being on the hook that I am going to write the first chapter, right? And I suck at writing stuff, so I'm going to do the best I can. And I think I'm going to make this book for free. I'm just going to give it as a free download, and I'm not trying to make money on anything. The second thing I'm going to do is within this 100 days. First off, I want to launch a very real podcast.
Yeah.
So on day, and I'm thinking this is what I want to do. I'm going to have a workshop. I'm going to advertise it to the community, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take on the new 365 recruits,
Mm.
and I'm going to teach people how to follow the 365 commitment, and I'm going to do that in the community. So I'm going to run classes, and I'm going to teach people how to follow this commitment. I'm going to do a workshop. I
Right.
may do it online. I may do it in person. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to launch it on. I haven't decided if it's going to be day 366 or if I'm going to go day one again. Haven't decided that.
So you're thinking of each year doing the reset. When you reach 365, then you start over at one again.
Yeah. Do I do one again or do I do day 366?
I don't know. When I hear the two starting at day one again for the new year, it kind of sounds appealing to me. But either way, because then it's new again, and you're not building up this giant number.
Yeah, and maybe I could decide that some of the habits didn't work out and I need to like cut some of them out, right? Maybe some of the habits are not getting me the benefit I want and I need to replace them with others. Because I'm getting to the point where I'm accumulating habits and there's just too freaking many of them. I got like 20 habits I'm doing now every day and I don't have time. So I need to like come
Yeah.
up with I've thought about doing weekly habits or monthly habits. I'm like, nah, I got to do daily habits, right?
Right.
So anyway, we'll get to that. But I want to
So you
do a
want to write this
workshop.
book and do these workshops.
So I'm going to get the workshop going. And the other thing is do it. And this is, I don't want to, I'm going to publicly say this over this podcast of three people listening. I think there's somebody in the room with you listening. But I'm going to say this. I am going to, and I don't know what day this is. I need to figure it out. I got to figure out what day 365 is going to be. But I'm going to run a personal marathon.
Hmm.
So I'm going to set up in my neighbor. I figured it out already. I got to run 14 laps around my neighborhood to get to a marathon. I'm going to set my kids up outside with a little table with bananas and drinks and stuff and a sign with the number of laps. And I'm going to run around the neighborhood 14 times. It'll take me about 4 to 5 hours, probably 5 hours, because I'm averaging about a 10-minute mile.
Yeah.
So I'm going to run uh, a marathon on day 365. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to
Okay.
publish my book online. Here's what I'm
Hey,
going to do.
everybody, you heard him. You heard him.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to publish my book online. Come hell or high water, I'm publishing my book online. I'm going to launch my workshop with some paid advertising so I can attract people. So I will launch my paid advertising for my new workshop on day 365, publish my book online, and run a personal marathon. Run the first annual Temecula Marathon with a race participant of one.
Well, you'll win apparently.
I will win. I will not only run a marathon, I'm going to win that freaking
You can come
marathon.
in first.
I'm going to come in first. So that is what I'm going to do. What do you think of those commitments?
Yeah, no, it sounds good. I think they're attainable. I think making them public is a known I don't know. There's two ways of looking at it. If you make it public, then you can be held more accountable. But I met this guy once from Transylvania, literally from Transylvania, and he was kind of mentoring me when I was about 19. I was a roofer. He's a roofing salesman or something, and he talked like like Dracula, and he gave me advice. He said, never tell anybody what you're going to do, just do it. If you tell people, then they'll be jealous of you and give you the evil eye, or thwart you, or you'll fail and look like an idiot. But if you don't say anything and then do it, then you'll be golden. So I don't know. There's two ways of looking at it. But if you're going with the public announcement route, it's a little more perilous, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Everybody will know if you fail.
The art of war concept, where you build the plan and nobody knows it, and then you release the trap, right? But
right.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I could do that, but that's not it. I think I've discovered that as I've been blogging every day, because the other commitment I've made every day is I've been writing a blog every day, even if it kills me.
Right.
Even if it's midnight and I'm about ready to fall asleep, I'm writing a blog. And even if it's a paragraph, I'm writing the blog. And so I've done that every day for 265 days in a row.
It's a public diary.
It's a public diary, and I only have an audience of maybe 300, 400 people, probably 400 people by now. Not a lot, and I've got a lot of problems because I'm not a very good online publisher, right? I got a lot of work to do. But at the end of the day, even though nobody really reads it, although my kids read it religiously.
Well, I read it. I read most of them.
I can't. You haven't read them all. I know that for certain.
No, I haven't read them all.
But I
catch up. When I sometimes hit the bathroom, and I'll be like, I read a couple of these.
But I haven't been. But the fact that I know that you're going to read them one day, or somebody's going to read them one day,
right?
It's created this little dialogue in my head that I'm having with people, and whether those people exist or not doesn't matter. In fact, it doesn't even matter. The point is that I'm being held accountable.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of pressure. And some people look at me, well, Guy, one day you're going to crash, you're going to crumble, you're going to fall apart, and then you'll be depressed. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to. By the way, I just got to mention this, and we'll wrap up here. We're towards the end of the hour. Physiological benefits of the 365 commitment. And I'm not sure if this is because of running or if this is because of keeping the commitment or all that stuff. But what I've noticed that I've had these mood cycles my whole life, these kind of, I think everybody has them. You're down, then you're up, you're down. I've been noticing that those mood cycles are smoother, and I've noticed that I haven't had them as much. And I've noticed that when I do get in that depressive mode, it goes away quickly. And that has been a massive benefit to me, more than anything. That has probably been the number one benefit to me.
So kind of moving back from the ledge from a near manic depressive cycle.
Yeah, well, I think
so you've come back to a more even flow.
I think that manic depressive or bipolar people have the same cycles that anybody else has. I just think their cycles are more extreme.
Yeah.
And so I think I have the same cycles that any bipolar person would have. They're just not as extreme, and I've been able to manage and cope through that because I'm a normal functioning human.
Sure.
Like anybody.
But now it's much less. It's been mitigated.
Now, because I would go through. You do it too. You go through 3 or 4 weeks of just like moping around, and then you get up the energy and you finally overcome, and you're back at it, and everything's fine, and then something happens and you start sliding back in. That cycle.
Right. Well, it's that boom or bust, and part of the secret of 365 is that incremental improvement.
Yes.
Just for today, just that increment today, right? And
living for today.
It builds up over time.
Seizing the day.
Yeah, and so there's what I like about 365 too is there's all these aphorisms and truisms and cool things we've read and heard and picked up throughout life, and they all plug in. You know,
Yes, you're right.
they all plug in, they all fit, because it's a foundational habit. You know, it's this solid base that you can build, that you can bolt on really cool ideas from philosophy or from Jordan Peterson. And by the way, give him a plug. Anybody who hasn't listened to him yet absolutely should. Um, so yeah, I like the bolt-on capacity of the program.
Well, great. So Ben, I think it's been a successful first podcast.
I think so.
And thank you for your time. I think this was a great conversation. Look forward from 10 days from now, we will have podcast number 2.
All right. Looking forward to it.
All right. Signing
All right.
off. Thank you.
Good night. Take
Bye.
care.